presentation was. Thank you very much. I'm here to tell you a little bit about the Austrian experience with the switch from analog to digital and the switch from DVB-T1 to DVB-2, which basically was a success, just to give it in the basic of the presentation in a nutshell. This is the Austrian landscape, and Austrians in their primary source receive 54% of all households their television signal via satellite. Some 40% receive it via cable, and obviously the difference is via terrestrial. That obviously in the 60s was 100% via terrestrial, then satellite came in, cable came in, terrestrial lost ground, and thanks to the switch from analog to digital, it stabilized at around 6%. And you can see that in 2013, when the launch of DVB-T2 started, it was a little bit lower, but we already then saw that obviously people don't only have one television set at their homes, they have one in the living room, which is in most cases the main set in their flat or in their house. And then it's up to personal favorites. A lot of people have them in their sleeping rooms, whatever they do there. Some of them have it in the kitchen. When the kids are getting older, they have them in the kids' room. Some even have some in the toilets. I don't know what you do with a television in the toilet, but chacun son goût, as the French says. So basically, the whole issue started in 1955 in Austria with terrestrial distribution of television signals, and it really became interesting in June 2011 when the total digitalization of Austrian antenna television really was done. Basically 97.7% coverage in Austria for receiving DVB-T2, DVB-T, that's a, sorry ladies, conjunction. The problem is that in terms of the Austrian geography, cable isn't really profitable to roll out in every part of the country, simply due to the mountains. Why the Swiss have been successful in doing that, they have 98% cable distribution over Switzerland, and that is rather mountainous too. It's very simple. They are much richer than Austria. I mean, that's a simple fact of money. It's extremely expensive to roll out cables into the deepest valley of alpine mountains. In Austria, the distribution of 40% is more or less stable. So we had several technical operations. You can read that. I will try to present to you what happened then. In 2011, which is by now 7 years ago, the first pilot project of DVB-T2 started in Vienna. And it really was a pilot because obviously the reason for doing it was absolutely the same as you face in the Czech Republic. Frequencies are a rare good. The mobile operators want more, the television stations want more, even the airplane coordination needs some frequencies. Everything is increasing, so we had to divide frequencies to different players in the ground, and obviously DVB-T2 offers a lot of technical advantages, which I come to talk to you later. In spring 2013, there was the launch of a so-called TV product, I will also come to that later, called Simply, with a total of 40 programs which can be got via DVB-T2 signal, and that really then leaded into a total switch over from DVB-T1 to DVB-T2 in October 2017. So if you really manage that to do it in 7 months, I think, I'm pretty sure you're a European champion, but I also would bet that you are a world champion. The advantage of DVB2 compared to DVB-T1 is the robustness of the signal. There is better error protection, it's a better coding, so it is improved, and the accompanying useful bitrate per multiplex increases. And that is the major advantage. You can get more programs in the same width of bit rates, so that is, and you can use the remaining frequency for mobile companies, airplane regulators, whatever. More programs can be sent at once as a result of that, but also more programs with better quality than in the old system, and the transmission is able to be in high definition television. I mean, here stands perfect image quality, which is in 2018, where we discuss 4K and 16K, not the best standard, but it's at least a high quality standard. And obviously the distribution is more cost effective. So in total, 390,000 households throughout Austria were affected by the TV upgrade. Just to give you a relationship, we have approximately 3.4 million TV households in Austria, so it was a little bit more than 10%. Currently, 350 households subscribed or signed into Zinggl. About 22 of those households use several devices, so it's not only on one television set, on more television sets, or also on mobile devices. The amount of subscribers is steadily rising, even after the switchover. And around 24% of all Zinggl TV customers, that's the name of the product now, it's now really sold under a brand which is called Zinggl TV, use the subscription including 40 channels. And it costs 11 euros per month, which is, in comparison to a cable abonnement, approximately 20 to 40%, so it's relatively cheaper than a cable connection. So in 2013 it was launched, HD, wire terrestrial broadcasting with no additional costs. So the former SD signal was without cost for the consumers, replaced by the HD signal. There is a pay TV package with up to 40 channels. That has to do with a rather complicated situation with your counterpart in Austria, the ORF, because they are obliged by law to prepare their signal for free to every Austrian household. So we have a rather strange situation. Nobody understands it. Most people buy the 40 stations for 11 euros, but if you insist on it, you also can get it for free, but then you just have 15 channels, mostly of them by ORF. So they developed it further. In October 2015, they launched Zinggl TV Internet, which is basically an OTT product. And in June 2016, they launched the Simply app, mainly for the HBB TV signals. And obviously, this also brings TV guides and streaming opportunities. Product benefits, this is already my last slide. I hope I didn't bore you to death. For the consumer, it's 40 channels, which really is, for a terrestrial broadcasting product, pretty good. In Austria, the average household looks or watches 25 channels. I mean, obviously on a satellite dish, they receive more than 1,000 channels, but the programs they're really watching, they're always around 25. I mean, which is, by to some extent, it's quite logical. I mean, can you remember a channel list of 200 TV channels by mind and know which is where? I can't, anyhow. The monthly fee of 11 euros is relatively cheap in Austria. One of the big advantages of digital terrestrial broadcasting is it's easy to move the TV set from one spot in the living room to another, from the living room to the kids' room, from the kids' room to the garage, if somebody has to sleep in the garage, which sometimes happens. Don't need to prompt that anymore. It's also, we have the soccer championship in front of us, when the weather is beautiful, you can take your TV set out on the balcony or on the veranda, and you don't need to pull a cable behind it. So that is one of the big advantages. They offer flexible tariffs in Austria. So for example, for students who study in Vienna or Salzburg and living in the rural areas, they can interrupt their payment for 3 months, which are the summer holidays. Lucky students, I have to say. 3 months of summer holidays is something we all would love. And when they come back to Vienna, they start to pay again, and that is very flexible. And so it developed, especially for the second or the third television set, in the main living house or in the main living apartment as an alternative to cable. Satellite wasn't really affected, which also I think is logical, because if you have a satellite dish and you have a receiver, you've done your investment, you get your signal for free. When you are on a cable distribution, obviously you see the bill you pay every month and you start thinking, is that more than simply, can I live with the simple product offer, or anything else? And obviously, and that is the most popular usage, it's ideal for weekend houses, gardens, boats, etc., because you take it there and you have it. But it also brought advantages to TV channels, or as I'm running a sales house, also for the sales departments or the advertisers. I mean, 40 channels are much more than 5 or 8, which they had before. It's a better technical quality, so the product satisfaction of the consumer is much higher than before. I mean, if you once watched a football game in high definition, that is quite a difference, and you don't want to see it again in standard definition. It's an easy access, almost as easy as the satellite signal. So you don't have high technical costs, because as a television station or a TV channel, the company who runs Zinggl TV simply gets the signal from the satellite that's here, feeds it into their MUXes, and it's done. I mean, that's really, there's no complicated process. And you get a higher percentage of consumers which normally show lesser usage of television. I mean, we all know in selling television and doing research on consumers consuming television programs, the guys in the lowest quartile, as they say, the 25%, which just have a television usage in general, in average in Austria, we have a television usage of 189 minutes. The lowest 25% have a television usage of 25 minutes. So these are the people who are extremely difficult to reach, also for the advertisers, and simply brings a good channel to get hold of these less usage shows, because it's so easy for them, and they are of that target group who says 40 channels are more than enough for me. So it's good for TV usage in general, which is always good when you can show your advertising that the advertisers that the TV usage in general is rising, as it does in Austria, or at least staying stable. And it's very good for smaller or niche channels, because obviously the big channels, they were on any household's list, but DVB-T1 just had 5 channels, so the smaller channels basically haven't been on. So also for smaller and niche channels, it's a perfect way of distribution. I wish you all the best with your digital transition, and if you really happen to do it in 7 months, I come back with a crown for the European champion in digitalization. Thank you very much.